Well, good morning, everyone. This is a wonderful time. Again, on Palm Sunday, I still have a few minutes before Mass, and I spoke in the last video about the Apostolic Penitentiary. Well, when we think of a penitentiary, we often think of a prison, but the Apostolic Penitentiary is a special dicastery or organization or tribunal court in Rome that usually handles those things such as excommunication, the absolution of those who have experienced excommunication by their own fault, committing a sin, or that the church, by simply taking steps, they have taken themselves out of the church. So again, they are the ones responsible also for any dispensations, for any impediments, somebody getting married, and again, some kind of resolution needs to be made prior to the marriage because of some pre-existing condition. And also the issuance of indulgences, which is what we were talking about in our last film. So the penitentiary, Apostolic Penitentiary, is presently run by Cardinal Mauro Piacenza. Sounds Italian to me, and again, we shouldn't be surprised. But again, why is this so important? First of all, this character, Cardinal Mauro Piacenza, not only heads this tribunal or judgment place and handles all the indulgences, but should the Holy Father, look at what's going on in Italy. Let's just say the Holy Father should die, and we couldn't call a conclave. What usually happens when the Pope dies is that anybody who has a position of authority has it because they're acting in his name. And again, they automatically cease to exercise that authority, no matter what they might be, in the church because the Pope is dead. So until another one is elected, well, heaven forbid anything happen now because cardinals cannot travel outside their countries. So it would be almost impossible for us to have a conclave. So one of the things we do want to see is that of all those who lose their titles and positions in all these organizations over there in the Vatican, only one stays open, and that is the Apostolic Penitentiary. He is the only one that stays in office. And needless to say, that's because of its very nature, that the mission of the church is mercy in the sacrament of penance. It doesn't take a vacation, even in death. So again, this gentleman, Cardinal, is one of the three people that run the conclave for the Pope. But until then, he stays in power. He's the only one. So again, he's a very important person. And again, he calls us to use the confessional to experience the fullness of the mercy of the church. This fell into a great deal of disfavor in the Reformation back in the 1500s when all the Protestant churches were started to be created, because a lot of people misused the whole notion of indulgence. There was money involved, and powerful people would pay sums of money for an indulgence so that they could marry their whatever. And again, so rightfully so, but doesn't mean that the whole notion of granting an indulgence is not there. So again, it continues to this very day. And again, so we want this Pope Francis actually declared Misericordiae Vultus, which means the face of mercy. And he decreed that all churches would observe a special year of mercy, as you know, and we did that. But again, even around the holy days, we're asked to observe them. Why? Because they're holy days, or there's a doctrine or dogma that we need to follow? No, it's on those very heightened days that we can focus on all saints praying for mercy upon us. All the souls of purgatory need mercy. This is why we gather in the holy days, to be able to experience and focus more intently for all the aspects of our faith, the whole notion of mercy, that we can ask the Immaculate Conception of Mary to be an intercessor for us during this special day when she brings the one into the world who has no sin. That kind of thing. It makes perfect sense. But again, our minds are so scattered, our minds are so, just filled with all sorts of things that we don't often think about particular aspects of our faith. So this Apostolic Penitentiary is the one that declared during this time of pandemic that we can make a perfect contrition. The teaching is found in Catechism 1456, I believe. But it talks about perfect contrition, sincere desire to be sorrowful for our sins. Why? Because we love God. That we're going to express our sorrow by going to a confession, maybe not to the priest at this time, but certainly our desire is that if we could, we would go to confession to the priest, to hear ourselves say, oh, I did this, I did that, I can't believe how many sins I have. And that might only be in 2 days or 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years. But for us to hear that realizes how far we've strayed from God. And again, we're able to recount that, not to beat ourselves up, but to have it forgiven. I can only forgive sins that are confessed. So people come in and say, oh, Father, I just want the grace, or I just want a blanket thrown over the whole thing. And that's not really sufficient. That's an imperfect confession. But again, to express sorrow, to name the sins, to hear yourself, oh, I did that. Take responsibility for it. To man up, in a sense. And then also say, well, I have to do something different. I have to humbly come before God and say, I'm sorry that I've sinned against Him, sinned against my loved ones, sinned against the church, because sin affects everybody. Even an individual sin affects everyone. Just ask anybody that got a DWI and had it in the paper. You know the whole family knew about it, and much more. So again, it's that kind of notion. And then we want to hopefully hear the words of absolution when it's time to do so. When the virus is lifted and we're able to go back to church freely, let's go back to confession and do the same thing again. But until that time, the Apostolic Penitentiary, who holds the keys to the kingdom, will absolve you of those sins until you are able to go to confession and receive the absolution directly from the priest. So I hope this clarifies something. Again, some people are asking, what is this Apostolic Penitentiary? And again, it is a particular office in the Vatican for this very purpose. Confession of sin, holding the keys to the kingdom, that we're able to lift the burden and show our mercy as a church. And again, allow us to live a life of grace. Because when we carry around sin, there's no room for grace inside. So again, we have to get rid of the sins so that we can be filled with God's grace. And our lives will be more reflective, doing things that are pleasing to God, treating others as He asks us to treat them. And again, also to be able to just change the world because people are not loving as He's called us to love. It's the only thing He's asked us to do, but we've done a terrible job of doing it well. And again, there's been a lot of selfishness and self-centeredness and wars and holding of food and causing poverty through our policies that, again, we have not only individual sins, but communal sins and corporate sins of corporations. Again, we could still see them maybe being carried out even during this time of epidemic. People hoarding machines and things like that nature, trying to get a profit. So silly, because we're all in this together. So no matter how much money they make, they're still going to be before the judge. So again, just a little ditty for today and another additional teaching. Under 10 minutes. So again, I wish my homilies could stay that brief. There's a thought. Pray for that. Okay? Till next time. Bye-bye. It might be sooner than you think. So have a good day. Stay safe. Stay home. And stay healthy. May Almighty God bless you, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.